Welcome back to the gutter, the Grindhouse Gutter. I'm Josh. I'm joined here with Donnie
Yo.
and the Professor Smoak.
Hello from the gutter. Sorry, that was a blatant overkill reference.
We are from the All American Spook Show podcast. The podcast comes out every Monday at 6 p.m. East, wherever you get your podcasts. Also, right here on the YouTube channel. We also have other series to check out right here on the YouTube channel, including Video Vortex, Spook Show Rewind, Hammer Horror in Order. Lots of stuff going on here. We encourage you to go check out aaspookshow.com. That's the center of the Spook Show universe. From there, you can find our Patreon, which is also patreon.com/aaspookshow. And of course, our back archive of all of our past podcast episodes and all kinds of other cool stuff, all easily found on aaspookshow.com. So basically, what we do here on the Grindhouse Gutter is this is our chance we let the Professor Smoak make a selection. Basically, the old Grindhouse flicks, old B movies, stuff that probably would have played in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and drive-ins and B theaters and second run theaters, whatever, right? Like the CD type of stuff. So we do different subgenres with it. Basically, we kind of cover four grounds there. We've got you would have horror movies, you would have exploitation movies, you would have martial arts kung fu flicks. I'm blanking on the fourth kind. Oh, action. How can I forget the action flicks? all that kind of stuff, and we give particular ratings based on those genres. So, what do we have? What type of flick are we going to be watching this week, Smoak?
So this time we're going back and taking a dip in the exploitation well, so to speak, because really I've only done one exploitation movie before this, and that was Reform School Girls. And really, we didn't have Video Vortex. If we had Video Vortex, I probably would have done Reform School Girls on that, because really Reform School Girls later into the 80s was kind of an homage to the Grindhouse exploitation cinema. So this one is our first really, gritty exploitation film that we've done on the Grindhouse Gutter, and it is from 1981, director Abel Ferrara's Miss 45. This comes on the heels of his prior Grindhouse film, which was The Driller Killer, which we haven't done yet on the Grindhouse or on the show, but we'll get around to that too at some point. But have either of y'all seen Miss 45 before this?
No, this was the first time watch for me. Donnie, you said you didn't get a chance to watch it even for this one, right?
No, I didn't. So I'll be bowing out for the most of this.
You're in for a treat. One of the stars of the movie is a dog named Bogey. Now, in the movie, the dog's name, I don't know why they always change the dog's name. It's kind of weird if you think about it. Like,
yeah, no, it is a weird thing.
The dog's name in real life is Bogey, but in the movie,
song.
his name is Phil. So for some reason, they called him Phil. But yeah, we know your love for dogs, Donnie.
I do. Yeah.
This one actually has, on IMDb, they have the top 3 stars always listed, and one of the top 3 stars is Bogey. So I think that's just because there's not too many main characters here. You're really only dealing with one, right, Smoak?
Main star in the movie, Dana, she's a mute, and she's like she's a seamstress for this, high fashion company. Really, the movie is, we talk about it's an exploitation. That's our subgenre this falls under. But under each of our subgenres, you have various subgenres, I guess you could say. And this one would fall into the infamous rape revenge subgenre of exploitation. Or enough Grindhouse movies. Same type of thing that a movie like I Spit on Your Grave would fall into, or even for that matter, Death Wish, Thriller, A Cruel Picture, and all these movies I just mentioned were a inspiration for Abel Ferrara when he made this one. Taxi Driver as well. There's a little bit of a Taxi Driver element to this one, but the thing that this one is those were all, with the exception of Thriller, A Cruel Picture, and I Spit on Your Grave. The other ones were male-driven movies, and this one's from a female's perspective. In other words, it's sort of a, I guess, in the way that I Spit on Your Grave was kind of a feminist horror movie in a way, where you have, she has a terrible day, you might say, to put it mildly.
Yeah, I was about to say the least.
Yes, to say the least. So she, starts her day off at the place where she works as a seamstress, and then it shows the group of girls leaving work. This is in New York, streets of New York, Manhattan area, I guess. and they're leaving, and then the first thing it shows is like them getting cat calls on the street, right? Whistles and like, oh hey baby, all this, as they're walking down the street. So you get the sexualized objectification of women kind of thing that plays into it at first, and then by the time she eventually, not too far long after this scene, she gets raped, and the guy who does that, by the way, is the director of the movie is Abel Ferrara, and that's Abel Ferrara in that mask in that scene. He had starred in his own movie, his debut, Driller Killer, and so I guess he he cast himself in that role for some reason. But then she gets it to her house, right? She makes it back home, and then gets raped again by a man who's in her house, breaking entering guy.
Yeah, two completely unrelated things from one another. Like it's not like it was a team of guys. It was just like one guy raped her in an alleyway. She goes home, and then it just so happens a guy had broken into her house, and he's just there waiting on her.
Yeah,
not to laugh at it, but like it's a horrible situation. Like what the hell? How?
And like you mentioned too, it's not the same group of guys. Like the movie we had talked about earlier, and one that this one's kind of influenced by a little bit was "I Spit on Your Grave."
Yeah.
In that movie, it's a rural location where the main star of the movie is attacked by this group of hillbilly types. And then, she's repeatedly, it happens to her again and then again, but it's the same group who track her back down again, and the same thing happens again. Two unrelated incidences. The first one, the guy does what he does and leaves and gets away and all that stuff. Now, the second one, and I don't know, should we go too deep into spoiler territory here or not? I mean, I don't know that this would spoil it.
We don't need to give the grisly details, but we'll leave it here. She gets her revenge on the spot.
Yes, definitely. And this movie is also, it's not the typical grindhouse exploitation movie. Like if you went into this watching it to expect titillation from like you would with certain exploitation movies, like for instance, let's say Ilsa, She-Wolf of the SS, or Ilsa, Tigress of Siberia, or any number of these movies that have a lot of sexploitation, nudity elements, and all that. If you go into this movie expecting that, you're going to be disappointed because it's deeper than that on a different level. And also, it's very much, I don't know exactly where Abel Ferrara was going with it. I haven't read any sort of scholarly reviews of this movie per se, but I don't know if he's condemning or praising, what she goes through in the movie is terrible at the beginning. And then she enacts revenge, like we said, on the second of the rapists. As the movie progresses beyond that, though, really, some of the guys that, this breaks her, obviously, mentally. And she takes the 45, which the name of the movie, Miss 45, she gets from the second rapist. After she takes revenge on him, she uses that gun to further take revenge on other men. And then these men, do they deserve it? Some do, some maybe don't, depending on what some of them are just like, again, just cat calls, kind of objectification, but they're not like attacking her necessarily. And she takes revenge on some of these others.
It causes her to almost have like just a psychotic break. Like she becomes a maniac, essentially.
And I don't think I think the director does this intentionally to sort of, in a way like Death Wish, it's kind of, you're siding with her to a certain degree up to a point, but then there's a certain point where you're like, damn, that's I don't know that person necessarily deserved that. What happened to them. There's one guy who, and I say we're not really giving any details away on what part it is or whatever, but let's just say that it's someone who is totally hasn't made any advances on her at all whatsoever. He's just somebody who's trying to get into their property, so to speak, their gate or whatever it is. And she's about to kill this person. And, we'll just leave it there. But let's say somebody who's not deserving of it at all, who's done anything, and no cat calls, no any sort of objectification or anything, So yeah, I think that this is just the director sort of playing with people's emotions, so to speak, of saying, are you really on her side, or should you be on her side, or should you not?
I will say most of this movie is unnecessary. Like now I know that wouldn't make for a good movie, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I know where you're gonna go with
her follow up to what happened there was like, well, that was unnecessary,
Yeah, exactly. And I was thinking along those same lines. I was gonna say something about that too, but like you said, there wouldn't be a movie if
it wouldn't have. It wouldn't have been
details.
I think it comes to a fairly satisfying end. Would you say that?
Yeah, it comes to well, you've seen the posters. This won't be giving anything away if you've seen any of the poster art for it. Also, this might, if you've never seen the movie, this might be something misleading to you. Is a lot of the poster art or stills or whatever from the movie feature her in a nun's habit, right?
Yeah.
She's like a nun. So a lot of times, people, I remember back in the 80s and stuff, thought it was a nunsploitation movie, which is yet another subgenre of exploitation that we haven't touched on yet, but the nunsploitation film. And if you saw that photo of her with a 45 and she's wearing a nun habit, you would think, wow, this is a nunsploitation movie or something, but it's not at all. This just happens to be a costume Halloween party. Was it Halloween party or was it just a costume party?
Yeah, no, it was a Halloween party.
It's Halloween party, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So, and she's dressed up as a nun. Again, that's not really giving it away. That's in all the publicity still photos you'll see for this movie if you look it up.
What we do here is we let you give basically 2 separate ratings. Now, at first we do the Grindhouse Gutter rating, and that's basically 0 through 10. Sorry, that's basically 0 through 10. How do you feel this fits as far as like comparing it to the other Grindhouse movies that we've talked about here on the Gutter, and rewatchability? Does it have all those great Grindhouse elements that you look for with these type of movies? And then we'll let you do the actual rating, which is basically, we don't do star ratings here. We have a rating system that goes along with whatever genre of Grindhouse flick that we're watching. And since this is exploitation, you're going to be giving out X's. So that's a normal 0 to 5 rating there. So go ahead with your Grindhouse Gutter rating first.
This movie subverts your expectations when it comes to a Grindhouse movie or what you might expect by watching an exploitation film. If you come into this expecting extreme violence, you're really not getting that either. I mean, there's violence and violent things happen, but it's more of a visceral sort of messed up kind of thing. I mean, there's a little bit of blood with it because, obviously in the name of the title, it's Miss 45. So she's mainly using a gun to, kill her or take revenge on these men or whatever. And so you get, some blood squib type violence, but you don't really get much more than that. And even that's kind of restrained when it comes to, it's not like full on squibs everywhere or something like, say, Maniac, where somebody's head gets blown off with a shotgun or anything like, you're not getting like hardcore splatter effects. So really, I mean, I think I'm about to rate the Grindhouse element a little bit lower, but that's not to say that it's not a great movie. It's just that don't go into this expecting high levels of, sex and violence. Out of 10, I'd probably give it a 6 out of 10. But again, that's not knocking the movie. That's just don't go into it expecting what I just said, massive amounts of extreme violence or sex or TNA or any of that.
How many X's do you want to give it?
That Grindhouse rating is a 6, but the exploitation rating, I'm going to go with a 4 out of 5 on it because I think it's a really well done movie. You can see why Abel Ferrara would go on to do bigger things and more things when he got a bigger budget. So I go with a 4.
Well, that's it for this go around. So by the time we come back to the Gutter next month, we will be in the midst of the Spook Show Summer Disaster. Now the whole theme there will be kind of self-explanatory in the title there. We're going to be talking about disaster movies, whether that be monster flicks, apocalyptic disasters, natural disasters. Any of that stuff falls kind of in our disaster category. It's the old, well, if this happened in real life, it would be a disaster. So with that in mind, Professor, what's next month's selection?
I think it's about damn time that we get to some Lucio Fulci on the Grindhouse. What better one to start off with in the Grindhouse Gutter than Lucio Fulci's Zombie 2, or at least in Italy it was known as Zombie 2. And here in the States it was known as Zombie.
That very popular image right there, that zombie.
Yeah. We are going to eat you.
If you know anything about Fulci or know anything about horror, really, you've probably seen that cover before for sure. That guy.
Oh yeah.
The old worm-eyed zombie, might call him. And
I'm looking forward to that. That's a good pull. That is.
Yeah, I know you've seen it, right? Donnie, have you seen Zombie? I think Josh has seen it, though. Right?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, it's been a while since I have. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the Zombie 2 thing is just because, and we've gone over this before, but Dawn of the Dead was called Zombie, Z-O-M-B-I, which is the plural, which in English means zombies, which is what Dawn of the Dead was called in Italy and some other countries in Europe. So hence the title Zombie 2. That caused a lot of confusion for people back in the day, which is also why they just released it as Zombie.
Yeah. That's a good one. So, yeah. Like we said off the top, check out aaspookshow.com. That's the center of the Spook Show universe. Go to our Patreon, patreon.com/aaspookshow. Check out all this other stuff that we have here on the YouTube channel. And of course, every Monday at 6 p.m. East, a new episode of the All American Spook Show podcast comes out right here on the channel and also wherever you get your podcast. So for Will, who couldn't be with us, Donny, Professor Smoak, I'm Josh. We're from the All American Spook Show, and we'll talk to you next.
See ya.